There comes a moment in every human life when silence feels louder than words. A moment when the noise of the world fades and you hear something else, something ancient, something burning, something that whispers, "You were made for more." Not everyone listens. Most drown that voice in distraction, the endless scrolling, the constant comparison, the shallow chase for comfort that leaves the soul starving for meaning. But those who do listen, those rare ones who pause long enough to hear that whisper, they begin the journey of transformation. They begin to think like leaders. Because leadership does not begin when people follow you. It begins when you decide to stop following your fears. A leader is not measured by applause or approval, but by the courage to move when others stand still, to believe in vision when the world demands evidence. That is the birth of leadership, a private revolution that begins in the mind. Every empire in history began as a single invisible decision, a thought too bold for the timid, too uncomfortable for the average, too relentless for the weak. Edison had it when he was ridiculed for chasing light without fire. Ford had it when he dreamed of a machine that could move without a horse. Carnegie had it when he looked at steel and saw the skeleton of modern civilization. And Hill himself, Napoleon Hill, had it when he sat at the feet of giants and realized the secret that ties them all together. Your mind is the workshop of your destiny. Think like a leader, and the world will eventually be forced to see you as one. But here's the truth they don't tell you. Thinking like a leader is not about confidence, it's about clarity. Confidence is loud, but clarity is power. When you know who you are and where you're going, you no longer compete. You create. You no longer react to the world. You reshape it. Most people think leadership is a title, but leadership is a temperature, an inner fire that burns hot enough to ignite others. When you think like a leader, your thoughts stop being random wishes and start becoming deliberate blueprints. You begin to move with purpose, to act with precision, to build with vision. That is where the transformation begins. But to lead your life, you must first confront your mind, because the battlefield is never out there. It's always in here. It's the war between the voice that says, "I can," and the one that says, "I can't," between the dreamer that dares and the doubter that hides, and every morning that war begins again. Most people lose before the day even starts, not because life defeats them, but because they never learn to defeat themselves. They let fear dictate their choices, routine dull their senses, and doubt choke their ambition. But not you, not anymore. You are here because something inside you refuses to settle. Something in your soul knows that mediocrity is a prison built by the lazy and guarded by the fearful. You were not born to blend in. You were born to rise. And rising begins with thinking differently, because when the average person sees risk, the leader sees opportunity. When others see failure, the leader sees feedback. When the crowd panics, the leader pauses, not out of hesitation, but out of vision. That is the secret of the giants of history. They mastered their inner world before conquering the outer one. Abraham Lincoln lost more elections than most people have dreams, yet he refused to surrender to despair. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times, yet he called every failure an education. And Walt Disney, fired for lacking imagination, went on to create a world powered entirely by it. They all understood what most never grasp. A leader's power is not in avoiding failure, but in never staying there. You cannot rise while clinging to the comfort of who you were yesterday. To think like a leader, you must unlearn the habits of limitation. You must kill the small talk inside your head that whispers, "Be realistic." Realistic never built a bridge. Realistic never cured a disease. Realistic never changed the world. Giants are not realistic, they are relentless. And when you begin to think like that, something shifts. Your posture changes, your energy changes. You stop begging for permission to exist and start demanding a space for your vision. You begin to act, not react. You begin to design, not drift. You begin to live as though the future belongs to you, because it does. That's what it means to act like a giant. But the truth is, giants are not born tall. They are forged through struggle. They grow because they refuse to shrink. Every setback becomes a step. Every wound becomes wisdom. Every scar becomes a story. And soon, the same people who once doubted you will say they always believed in you, because that's how the world works. First they laugh, then they watch, then they follow. So think like a leader, act like a giant, because your time has come. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. They say faith can move mountains, but belief builds them. You can think like a leader all you want, but until you believe like one, you will forever be trapped between potential and paralysis. Belief is the invisible engine of every human achievement. It is what made the Wright brothers look up at the sky and whisper, "What if?" It is what made Helen Keller touch the world she could not see and still call it beautiful. It is what made Elon Musk stare into the stars and see not distance but destiny. Every revolution, every breakthrough, every empire that ever changed the course of humanity was first born in the mind of someone who refused to stop believing when everyone else stopped understanding. Because belief isn't built in comfort. It is built in the fire, in the silence after the rejection, in the emptiness after the failure, in the loneliness after the dream collapses. Belief is what stands when everything else falls. There will come a moment, maybe it's already come, when the world will question your sanity for dreaming as big as you do, when your own mind will whisper, "What if it doesn't work?" And that's when you must answer, "What if it does?" Because belief isn't pretending it's easy. Belief is knowing it's hard and doing it anyway. It's staring at the storm and refusing to bow your head. It's saying to yourself, "I am not defined by what's happening to me. I'm defined by what I decide to do next." That's the difference between those who wish and those who win. The world is filled with people who wish things were better, but leaders are the ones who believe they can make it better. And giants? Giants don't just believe, they embody belief. They carry it in their posture, in their words, in the way they walk into a room like destiny has been waiting for them. They don't beg for opportunity, they build it. They don't wait for approval, they act on conviction, because belief, when combined with vision, becomes something magnetic. It bends reality. You see, the universe does not respond to weakness, it responds to clarity. When you know who you are and what you're here to do, life begins to align in ways logic can't explain. Doors open, people appear, momentum builds. It's not luck, it's alignment. And alignment is not magic, it's mastery. It's the result of consistent discipline rooted in unshakable purpose. Discipline, the word most people avoid because it feels like restriction, when in truth it is liberation. Discipline is freedom disguised as effort. It's the decision to take control of your time before time takes control of you. It's the bridge between the dream in your head and the reality in your hands. Henry Ford once said, "The man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both right." What he didn't say, but lived, was that belief without discipline is fantasy, and discipline without belief is slavery. You need both, because discipline without belief becomes routine, lifeless, mechanical. But belief without discipline becomes delusion. A spark without fire, combine them, and you become unstoppable. Every morning you wake up is a negotiation between the old you and the new you, the one who wants comfort and the one who craves greatness. Discipline is choosing the latter every single time. It's writing when you don't feel inspired, training when you're tired, showing up when no one's watching, and believing that every unseen effort is a brick in the foundation of your legend. That's what Edison did when he worked through 1,000 failed experiments. That's what Lincoln did when he lost everything and still stood tall. That's what every modern-day visionary still does. They honor the grind, not because they love the pain, but because they love the purpose behind it. And purpose is the great equalizer. It is what turns ordinary people into icons. It is what makes a janitor whistle through exhaustion because he knows he's serving something bigger. It's what makes a leader rise before dawn, not out of obligation, but out of obsession. Purpose is the compass of the soul. Without it, you drift. With it, you dominate. To think like a leader is to be crystal clear about why you rise. To act like a giant is to move through fear with that why carved into your bones. And to win like a legend, you must live as if failure is just another word for training. Because life is not testing what you know. It's testing what you believe, and belief that isn't tested cannot be trusted. So when the world tells you no, when your plans collapse, when doubt whispers in your ear, smile, because that's the moment you're being sculpted into something unbreakable. That's the moment legends are made. Do not ask for an easy path. Ask for the strength to climb the difficult one. Do not pray for lighter burdens. Pray for broader shoulders. Do not wait for signs. Become one. because those who wait for miracles never realize they are the miracle. The moment you believe that truth, that you are not a spectator but a creator, everything changes. You stop chasing success and start attracting it. You stop running from failure and start learning from it. And the more you learn, the more powerful you become. You begin to see that leadership isn't about being perfect, it's about being progressive, moving forward even when the ground trembles beneath you. And giants, true giants, do not fear the fall, they rise higher because of it. There comes a time when belief must evolve into vision, when faith must grow eyes. Because no one ever stumbled into greatness by accident, legends see what does not yet exist, and then they live as if it already does. Vision is not about sight, it's about foresight. It's the ability to close your eyes and still see the summit. It's what drove Walt Disney to stand in a swamp and picture a kingdom. It's what made Steve Jobs stare at a box of circuits and imagine an elegant tool that would fit in every human hand. It's what turned ordinary men into architects of the impossible. Vision is your mind's prophecy of your future. It is the movie playing behind your eyes that no one else can see until you make it real. But here's what they don't tell you. Having vision is easy. Holding it when everything falls apart. That's where leadership begins. Because the world will test your picture. It will rain on your plans, doubt your dreams, and mock your ambition. It will send storms so fierce they shake the walls of your purpose. And in that storm, you'll be asked one question. How much do you believe in what you see? If your vision dies in adversity, it was never a vision, it was a wish. But if it survives the darkness, if it grows stronger in silence, if it burns brighter in pain, then you have something indestructible. That's what purpose is, the backbone of vision. Purpose is the reason you refuse to quit when logic says you should. It's the heartbeat beneath your work, the pulse that keeps you moving long after applause fades. And when purpose fuses with discipline, you stop existing and start building. You no longer wait for motivation. You manufacture it. You no longer seek permission. You command your time. You no longer dream vaguely. You design precisely. Every great leader became a legend, not by chance, but by decision. They built systems around their vision. They scheduled their obsession. They didn't hope for the right moment. They created it. Thomas Edison didn't wait for the perfect experiment. He invented progress itself. He didn't chase perfection. He chased improvement. Because the leader knows that perfection is paralysis. The giant knows that progress is power. So stop asking, when will I be ready? You will never be ready. You must begin anyway. The path to greatness is not walked by the prepared. It's carved by the brave. Every unfinished step forward is more powerful than 1,000 perfect plans never started, because motion creates clarity, and clarity fuels power. You must understand, life does not reward the hesitant. It rewards the decisive, those who move even when uncertain, because destiny does not knock twice. The leaders who win are not the ones with the best ideas. They are the ones who execute relentlessly. They act when others analyze. They move when others wait for permission. They fail fast, learn faster, and keep going until the world adjusts to their will. And that is the rhythm of the legend. They wake early not because they have to, but because they can't wait. They work long hours not because they're forced to, but because they're possessed by purpose. They see rejection as feedback, resistance as refinement, and obstacles as opportunities to evolve. They have trained their minds to turn every no into fuel, every loss into wisdom, every delay into preparation. They have learned to whisper in chaos. This too is shaping me. That's what separates the average from the extraordinary, its response. Because in life you don't get to choose your storms, but you do get to choose your stance. You can crumble or you can conquer. You can hide or you can harness. Leaders harness. Giants harness. They channel pain into power. They use rejection as redirection. They understand that the fire that burns others down is the same fire that forges them into steel. When the masses run for shelter, the leader walks into the rain because they know that greatness only grows in uncomfortable soil. Seeds of success do not bloom under sunshine alone. They need storms to take root. So do not curse your struggle. Study it. Do not resist your pain. Rise through it. Because the universe is not punishing you. It's preparing you. Every challenge is a sculptor's hand, chiseling away everything that is not you so the real you can emerge. You were not born to be another echo in the crowd. You were born to be a voice that shakes the walls of complacency. And to do that, you must think beyond limitation. You must act beyond comfort. You must believe beyond sight. Because vision without motion is hallucination. Purpose without progress is potential wasted. And belief without backbone is a dream dying quietly. You are the builder of your own legend. Every choice you make today is either sculpting your greatness or stealing from it. Every hour is a deposit into your destiny or a withdrawal from it. So stop spending your time and start investing it. Because the difference between those who talk and those who triumph is simple. Execution. The legend doesn't just think, he does. He doesn't just dream, he builds. And when the world tells him enough, he says, not until I'm finished. This is what it means to act like a giant, not through arrogance, but through audacity, to walk with quiet conviction that the impossible is only a word for those who quit too soon, to look at mountains and say, move, and when they don't, to climb. There will come a point on your path where the dream turns heavy, where your perfect plans shatter in your hands and your bright mornings fade into long nights of questioning, where your fire flickers under the weight of exhaustion, rejection, and silence. And in that moment, when the cheers fade, when progress slows, when the mirror stares back at you asking, was it all worth it? That is the crucible of resilience. Every great soul has stood there. Edison stood there, surrounded by failure after failure, mocked by those who could not see his vision. Lincoln stood there, losing elections, losing children, losing hope, and still found the strength to rise for a nation divided. Mandela stood there, behind bars, his dreams shackled for decades, yet his spirit never caged. Resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the mastery of it. It is the quiet decision to stand tall when your knees are shaking, to smile when the weight of the world presses down, to whisper, try me, when life says, I dare you. That is what separates the fragile from the forged. Because pain will visit us all, but endurance is a choice. Understand this, the moment you commit to greatness, life will test that commitment. The higher you climb, the stronger the wind. The closer you get to the summit, the steeper the fall beneath you. But those winds are not sent to break you, they're sent to shape you. You don't grow through comfort, you grow through contrast. You don't evolve by winning, you evolve by withstanding. Resilience is not just surviving the fall, it's learning to rise faster each time. Because every time you rise, your foundation grows deeper. Every scar becomes armor. Every failure becomes strategy. You begin to realize that nothing can truly stop you unless you stop believing adaptability is resilience in motion. It's not just standing firm in chaos, it's dancing with it. It's adjusting your sails when the wind changes, not cursing the storm for shifting direction. Darwin said it best. It is not the strongest that survive, but the most adaptable. That truth doesn't belong only to nature. It belongs to every dreamer navigating the storms of destiny. You must become flexible in method, but unbreakable in mission, because rigidity is the enemy of reinvention, and reinvention is the mark of every legend who refuses to fade. Think of it. Every icon you admire was once a failure redefined. Henry Ford went bankrupt twice before creating the assembly line. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job for being unfit for TV. Steve Jobs was exiled from the very company he built and came back to redefine it. They didn't cling to who they were. They adapted into who they needed to become. That's the art of reinvention, the willingness to shed your old skin without mourning it, because your past version, as powerful as it was, cannot survive at your next level. Each elevation demands an evolution. Giants are never afraid to start again. They know that beginnings aren't setbacks, they're rebirths. Every time life knocks them down, they rise with sharper vision and stronger armor. They rise not as who they were, but as who they're becoming. To win like a legend, you must master that rhythm. Rise, fall, learn, rise again. There is no straight path to greatness, only a series of climbs, stumbles, and rebirths. And every fall teaches you something the summit never could. The valley teaches patience. The storm teaches perspective. The delay teaches determination. The loss teaches gratitude. So do not despise the low points. They are where your strength takes root. A tree that only feels sunlight grows shallow roots. One that endures storms grows deep ones. Your struggle is not proof of your weakness. It is the proof of your calling, because fate does not test the unchosen. It tests those marked for impact. Every hardship you face carries a hidden invitation to adapt, to innovate, to rise higher than before. And when you learn to see challenge as a sculptor rather than a destroyer, everything changes. You stop fearing change. You become change. The leader inside you starts to see obstacles not as problems, but as puzzles, things to be solved, mastered, and learned from. The giant inside you learns to smile in the storm, knowing that every gust of wind is a lesson in disguise. And the legend, the future version of you that's watching from the mountaintop, whispers, "Keep going, you're being built." You are being built for something extraordinary. Every failure, every disappointment, every sleepless night, it's all part of the architecture of your greatness, because legends are not remembered for how easy their journey was. They're remembered for how impossible it looked and how they made it anyway. And that's the truth. Few are willing to live. Everyone wants success. But few are willing to be tempered by it, because success is not handed to you. It's extracted through the fire. You must burn through the old to forge the new. That is why the legends walk with such quiet confidence. They've already faced the flames. They've been broken, rebuilt, refined, and reborn. They have earned the calm in their stride. They have earned the certainty in their gaze. So when your time comes, and it will, do not shrink. When the storm rages, do not bow. When the fire burns, do not run, because that fire is your forge. That storm is your training ground. That chaos is your calling. And when you rise from it, you will not just be stronger, you will be unshakable. Mastery begins the moment you stop chasing success and start chasing refinement, because success is something you reach once. But mastery is something you become. And the difference is simple. Success is measured in trophies. Mastery is measured in transformation. When you think like a leader and act like a giant long enough, you begin to realize that the true game is not about winning against others. It's about winning against your former self. You are not here to compete. You are here to elevate, to refine your craft, sharpen your mind, deepen your discipline, and stretch your soul beyond what you thought possible. Mastery is a marriage between precision and purpose. It's the musician practicing a single note until it becomes art. It's the athlete repeating the same motion until it becomes instinct. It's the thinker reimagining the same problem until it births innovation. The world sees the result and calls it talent, but legends know the truth. It's obsession, the relentless pursuit of improvement until every detail becomes sacred. Because mastery doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing with meaning, from being fully there, present, focused, alive, in the act of becoming better. That's where greatness lives. Not in the noise, but in the nuance. Michelangelo once said that the sculpture already exists inside the marble. He simply removes what doesn't belong. That's what mastery is. Removing the unnecessary until only excellence remains. And as you master your craft, something miraculous happens. Gratitude begins to grow where frustration used to live. You start to realize that the struggle was not a punishment, but a privilege, that every challenge was a teacher, every delay a divine detour, every pain a proof of purpose. Gratitude transforms the grind. It turns ordinary moments into miracles. It reminds you that you don't have to do this, you get to. You get to wake up with another chance. You get to create something no one else can. You get to influence, to build, to love, to lead. When gratitude fills your mind, fear loses its voice. Because fear and gratitude cannot coexist. One demands control, the other releases it. And that release is where peace begins. The greatest leaders are grateful not because life is easy, but because they understand its rhythm. They've seen enough storms to appreciate the sun. They've endured enough pain to recognize the beauty of calm. They know that life's value isn't measured in comfort, it's measured in contribution. And contribution is the bridge between mastery and legacy. Because you were never meant to keep your light to yourself. Everything you've learned, every scar you've earned, every victory you've claimed, it wasn't just for you. It was to build something larger than you. That's what it means to win like a legend. It's not about stacking wealth or status. It's about leaving a mark so deep that time itself remembers your name. Andrew Carnegie understood this. He built an empire of steel, then used his fortune to build libraries, schools, and dreams for generations he would never meet. He knew that true wealth isn't measured by what you keep. It's measured by what you create for others. To win like a legend is to live in such a way that your existence expands beyond your lifetime. It is to be remembered not just for what you achieved, but for what you awakened in others, because leadership is not about standing above. It's about lifting those around you. Giants do not cast shadows, they cast inspiration. And when you reach that level, when your purpose turns outward, your life begins to echo. You start to understand that your influence is not in your words, but in your example. That every action is a message, every choice a sermon, every moment a chance to teach what it means to rise. And when you live like that, and when you lead like that, something profound happens. You stop chasing destiny, and destiny starts chasing you. Opportunities align, people appear, and the world begins to bend toward your vision. Not because of luck, but because you've become magnetic to purpose. You've evolved from a seeker to a symbol, from one who hopes to one who embodies. And that's when you understand the secret all legends share. The goal was never the crown, it was the becoming. You were never meant to arrive. You were meant to ascend again and again, becoming more with every challenge, more with every failure, more with every dawn. Because the summit is not a place, it's a mindset. It's the realization that you are the mountain, that everything you were climbing toward was already within you, waiting to be awakened, so stand tall, not with arrogance, but with awareness, not as someone who has conquered the world, but as someone who has conquered themselves. You have thought like a leader. You have acted like a giant. Now it is time to win like a legend. Win with integrity. Win with gratitude. Win with the fire of purpose lighting your path. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more meaning. It doesn't need more followers. It needs more founders. It doesn't need more dreamers. It needs more doers. Be that doer. Be that leader. Be that legend. And when your story is told years, decades, or centuries from now, let them say this: there walked a person who refused to bow to mediocrity, who dreamed audaciously, worked relentlessly, and gave selflessly, who left the world brighter than they found it. Let them say, here was a leader who thought like a visionary, acted like a giant, and won like a legend. And as long as those words echo, you will never truly die, because legends don't end, they ignite. There comes a moment near the end of every great story was such where the hero realizes that the treasure was never at the destination. It was always within. You've walked through the noise of doubt. You've stared down the mirrors of fear. You've crossed the valleys where dreams go to die. And yet here you are, still standing, still burning, still becoming. And maybe that's the truth of it all. The great paradox of greatness. That legends are not defined by the size of their victories, but by the depth of their endurance. Not by how loud they roar when they win, but by how silently they rise when they lose. Look back, just for a moment, not in regret, but in reverence. Every fall was a lesson. Every heartbreak a recalibration. Every closed door a redirection toward the one that was meant for you. You are not who you once were. And that's the point. You've been sculpted, refined, stretched, tested, broken, rebuilt. You've shed skins of comfort, peeled back layers of fear, and met the raw truth of who you are. Unstoppable, unbreakable, unfinished, because the legend never ends. The leader never stops leading. The giant never stops growing. That's the divine irony of life. The more you master, the more you realize how infinite you are. And that realization, that awakening, that quiet thunder inside your chest, that is your gift to the world. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your originality. It doesn't need your perfection. It needs your authenticity. It doesn't need your noise. It needs your voice. Because leadership in its purest form is not about command, it's about example. It's walking so boldly in truth that others remember what courage looks like. It's living so fully in purpose that others are inspired to find their own. It's facing the darkness so fearlessly that others believe they can too. And that is why you were chosen for this road. Because life saw something in you, a spark too stubborn to die. You were not made to blend into the crowd. You were made to stand where few have stood and say, follow if you dare. So from this day forward, lead not from your ego, but from your essence. Do not lead to be seen. Lead to serve. Do not lead to be remembered. Lead to redefine. Because true giants do not climb mountains to be admired. They climb to pull others up. They build ladders of wisdom, bridges of faith, and cities of courage where once there was nothing but dust. The measure of your greatness will not be how high you rise, but how many rise because of you. And that is the secret of legacy. It's not carved in stone. It's carved in souls. It's not measured in monuments. It's measured in momentum. It's not about immortality. It's about impact. When you think like a leader, your mind becomes a weapon of light. When you act like a giant, your movements shake the foundation of fear. When you win like a legend, your victory becomes a torch for generations to come. So build wisely, speak truthfully, move boldly, because somewhere out there a future leader is watching you, quietly, curiously, wondering if it's possible. Show them that it is. Show them that belief is stronger than circumstance, that vision is stronger than resistance, that purpose is stronger than pain. Show them that real power does not shout, it stands, that real confidence does not boast, it breathes, that real success is not about having more, it's about being more. You are the living proof that possibility is not fiction, that destiny is not written, it's forged, and that ordinary people, armed with extraordinary belief, can rewrite history itself. So think like a leader, not because you want followers, but because you refuse to follow fear. Act like a giant, not because you seek dominance, but because you embody determination and win like a legend. Not because you crave recognition, but because you crave meaning. Win with grace. Win with gratitude. Win knowing that every step you take forward leaves a footprint for someone else to find their way. The world will not always understand you, and that's fine, because leaders are never understood in the beginning. They are studied in the end. Giants are not embraced when they rise, they are celebrated when they're gone. And legends. Legends are not measured by time, they become time. They are the pulse that moves through generations, the echo that refuses to fade, the spark that ignites others long after their voice has quieted. And now that torch is yours. Carry it. Carry it into every room you walk into. Carry it into every challenge you face. Carry it with humility, with discipline, with unrelenting love for what you are building, because the future is not waiting to be discovered, it is waiting to be designed. And the architect is you. So build boldly, dream dangerously, act decisively. And when the day comes that your name is spoken in rooms you've never entered, let it not be for what you took, but for what you gave, because the ultimate victory is not in outlasting others, it's in outlasting doubt. It's in knowing that when the final curtain falls, you can look back and say, I left nothing undone, nothing unlived, nothing untried. And in that final silence, when the noise of the world fades, the whisper will return, the same one that started it all. You were made for more, and you'll smile because you'll finally understand you always were. You thought like a leader, you acted like a giant, and now you have won like a legend.